It's good to see you back. And first of all, very well done. I know there were hundreds of you, but at a personal level, and your family and friends, but particularly your own immediate family, it must have been a very worrying period for them. So fair play to you. You did, you and them and us and Ireland proud. So how do you feel about being back? Have you had a chance to reflect at all?
I suppose, thanks, yeah. And I have to say the support was absolutely incredible. And I suppose it just shows, the Irish people are just so committed, not just to Palestine, but to social justice generally, I believe. And they recognise when they see injustice, and they see it clearly in Palestine. And yeah, it's great to be back. I suppose looking at the deal, and I'm reluctant to call it a peace deal because when you look at this, it's how sad it is what's happened, how people needlessly were just slaughtered, and the destruction that happened to just a community. It just, the pain and the suffering and the thoughts that will they ever recover from that, and the sad. So it's sad, and it's nice obviously to see some respite, and then you hear about people talking about peace deal, and what I believe is we need a justice deal, because without any, peace is what we all want, and it's the obviously the goal, the objective, but it won't happen unless there's justice. And Palestinians and so many more small countries like ourselves in Ireland haven't had justice and equality for many decades. So I don't see the Palestinians getting justice, and then I would fear that there will be no peace. Now, I don't know if that makes any sense or not, but that's how I feel on it. And I think that so there's lots of mixed emotions being back. It was a huge honor to be part of the flotilla. It was something that to be part of that, to meet so many people who inspiring people who are very committed people, humanitarian activists, to meet them all on the same journey at and different stages within their own journey, and because there's people there who are relatively new to activism, and then there's people who are a long time involved in activism. So, but we're all on the same journey. So I suppose my head is, like I say, it's spinning a bit, and just starting to feel. I had a decent night's sleep last night, and so but it's good to be back, but also kind of humble and sad, and lots of emotions going around.
Well, I'm going to ask you, and you might feel this isn't the important story, but I'm going to ask you, just in terms of your own personal experience. If you recall, the last time we spoke on this medium, it was the evening before the flotilla was attacked, and you were whatever amount of miles off the coast of Gaza. So and also mindful that another flotilla has been attacked, and that there are other activists as we speak under arrest, including some Irish activists. But just to go back, the evening or the morning that the flotilla was attacked, give us a sense of that, because people will not have heard that in detail.
Yeah. So what happens is, late at night, you get a sense that it's going to all happen. The night before, there was a submarine and a naval vessel approached one of the boats, and there was an assumption it was going to happen then. They actually left. I suppose they were doing looking for information, and then when that happened, we felt it was, because it didn't happen that night. We felt, right, it's coming. So the night, which was the Wednesday, we were ready, waiting for it, really. And what happens is a mothership comes up and it launches two little Zodiacs. The two Zodiacs are loaded with IDF soldiers, and they put this power light on you. It tell you, listen, get up to the front of the boat. So we all go up to the front of the boat, and then they board the boat. Obviously, at all times, they have guns pointing at you, and then they get on board. They do a check on what's the boat, and if there's anything, surprises around the boat or anything, whatever they're not expecting, but we were all up at the front of the boat. Then they get you to come down. We went on. They brought us down to the back of the boat, and they kept us there. The 22 of us, they kept us at the back of the boat and they brought us into port, into Ashdod. But it was like 15 hours. You're sitting there on, with your back against somebody or a wall or one of the walls on the boat at the back, and you're like 15 hours. So it's long. They did allow you go to the toilet. Obviously, that was supervised, and then you go back up, and so it was 15 hours, and it was a long. For that 15 hours, you have an IDF soldier pointing a gun straight at you, so there's no respite really, and then from there, they literally manhandle you off the boat. And, it's like they're looking for an excuse to break your arm, or, they put your arms behind your back and your wrist, and they're just looking to some excuse to break your arm. So they manhandle you. They manhandle us onto the quays in the port, and they made us go on our knees with our heads forward. So it was like that, I suppose, that Guantanamo Bay kind of image with rows and rows of us lined up. So they kept us there in that position for about 2 hours. And then they start to pick people out to process them. So they bring you in and with your bag and your passport, and they process you, again, all at gunpoint. And, then they ask you, do you want to sign a form? And the form says that you have entered Gaza illegally, and if you sign that form, they give a commitment that they will deport you within 72 hours. Some people signed it, understandably, and some people didn't. As it happened, it didn't make any difference, because everybody got deported at the same time. For people who signed it, they came out like with me, like on the same flight out, so it didn't really make any difference. But it's all part of the idea that you would sign a form saying that you entered Israel illegally is insane, given that we were in international waters. We were taken at gunpoint and manhandled to there. So it just beggars belief, really. And then they process you through. Then they put you in cable ties, blindfold you, and put you in the prison van. And that's quite unnerving. I suppose being blindfolded probably is the thing that you don't know what's going to happen, whether you're going to get a smashed over the head or anything, whatever's going to happen. But then they put you in the prison van, and they bring you to the prison, which was a couple of hours drive, I think. And then.
And did you get food or water during this long, like the 15?
No, nothing.
Nothing.
No, nothing. So you're quite weak, and you know, your energy levels are very low. And then they put you in a holding cell. And there's about the holding cell is like a big cage. Actually, it's just like literally a cage, and you can see out clearly. And they put you in that cell in the cage. There was about 70 or 80 in that cage, so it was just, you could just stand up in it. And then they sign you. Eventually, they bring you to a cell, and there was 8 or 10 of us in a 10 or 12 of us in a cell. It was an 8-person cell. There was 8 bunks, and so a couple of you had to sleep. A couple slept on the floor on a mattress on the floor. Some people got mattresses, some people didn't. So we just shared the mattresses. You just put them together, and we just sleep on them like peas in a pod kind of thing. And then you know, and then they're just constantly coming in, waking you up, because at that stage it was late enough in the evening when we got into the cell. So then you know, you get to sleep, and they wake you up. I think they let you go to sleep so they can wake you up, and they wake you up every about hour and a half. And I suppose one of the most surreal moments for me of the whole thing was on that first night in our cell. They come in and they turn on the light, which is like a bright floodlight, and you're awake and you're disorientated, and takes you a minute just to get used to the light. And but they're banging and get down to the back of the cell. 5 armed IDF soldiers with, it was like shotguns, uh, facing you, pointed at you. And then they had one of those Malinois dogs with a muzzle on, just barking and barking. And so it was all very aggressive. So we obviously went down to the back of the cell, and they moved forward. And next thing, out of the back of the group, that armed group, came 2 kind of fellas in a white kind of shirts, and just looking for someone to do something. And then Ben Gavir behind them. And he said, and of course, it took me a minute or two to recognize him.
And who is he? Tell the listeners.
Oh yeah, Ben Gavir is the extreme right wing. Actually, I think he's insane, psychopathic and violent.
He's the cabinet minister, isn't it?
He's the cabinet minister, minister for security in Israel, and he said that that he started saying, "I'm Ben Gavir. You're going to be here for a very long time. This is a high security prison. You're all Hamas. You're Hamas. You're killing children. You want to kill Jewish children. You're rapists, and you're going to be here a long time." And so, you know, and of course, this was all for optics. He videoed it. I haven't actually been able to track down that video, but he videoed that, him saying that. And that was like, this is insane. Like, but in some ways, I was thinking after, he must have been a bit rattled. The fact that he would, a minister in the Israeli government, with, you would assume, negotiations going on in the background, that he would take the time to come into a cell like that. That flotilla must have damaged him, must have had an impact on him, and so because he was clearly wound up. And but you know, so obviously, and then he just leaves, and then we were woken up every few hours, and they gave us food, which, you know, didn't look very appetizing, to be honest with you. But many of us didn't, we refused to take the food. So you get tired, you know, you become kind of weak and tired. and from the lack of food, although it was only a few days. So, but you know, like I say, you met some really interesting people. They moved us around. I was in 3 different cells over those 5 days, I think it was, and I met. They moved us each night, of course, and it was the only time we got out of the cell was when you were moved. They were moving you to a different cell, and in fact, but there was no humanity in them at all. There was literally no, like, it was just violent and it was aggressive, and you could see they were just looking to have a reason to go off. And like, there was one fella in the cell next to us, an Irish fella, Paddy Kelly. He's involved for many years in the IPSC and campaigning and activism. He has diabetes, so his he needs insulin now and again, but they wouldn't give it to him. For 3 days, they wouldn't give him insulin. And so he struggled. Like, in what world does denying a 75-year-old man insulin make sense?
Well, but part of the norm of whatever the word is of being brought into a penal system is that you're given a medical check. Was there any medical checks for any of the?
No, not at all. Absolutely. They like I said, they were reluctant to give. It took 3 days for them to give Paddy his insulin, and there was other people requiring medicines, and doctors, and they weren't given access to those doctors when they needed them. So, like I said, and that's kind of, you know, is the lack of empathy and the lack of humanity really in them, and so there was no kind of humanity at all in the whole thing.
And was there any contact with Irish consular officials or for any of the Irish activists?
Yeah. So on I think it was the second day, we had a visit from the consulate there, the embassy there. Evan, absolutely fantastic. But even for him, when you think about it, they took off his phone, because I said, "What time is it?" He said, they've taken my watch and his phone, and they wouldn't let him have his phone or his watch. So that shows you what, embassy staff are being treated like. And so yeah, but he was very, there wasn't much he could say, but he was reassuring, and he was helpful and very professional, I have to say, and kind as well. And also, I suppose, so when we were leaving, when we were deported at the airport, they were there and they said the consulate, the Irish embassy staff will be with you in Athens when you arrive. So that was very reassuring, because we didn't know what was, we didn't even know we were going to Athens when we were getting on the plane, until we got on the plane. So it was all very, and when we got to the embassy staff, I have to say, in Athens, were also fantastic. They were really reassuring, efficient, kind, and they really do fantastic work, and it's important to acknowledge that. But
Okay.
when we were leaving, so we didn't know we were being deported. So I said, I probably won't get out till Thursday or Friday. And I don't know why, I suppose maybe you're just trying to psych yourself up. And then we were deported. So they moved us into a cell late that night. And so we said, what we'll do is, so we were just waiting and waiting. And in the morning, then they moved us in. They brought us to the prison van, and they put us into the prison van, which honestly, that was an ordeal. So we were in this like tiny little, well, it was a van. It had about 20 people in it, but it was all broken up. So in my unit in the prison van, there was 2 of us. So one of my cellmates and myself, we were, like, it was really close. It was like a confessional box. Like, there wasn't much room in it for anyone.
Yeah.
And so and we were in that for an hour and a half before we left the prison. And then the journey itself was about 5 hours, 5.5 hours, rattling around. And then when we got there, we were 2 hours sitting at the airport, because you could see out through the little grills. And we were 2 hours sitting there. And honestly, that was tough going now. And in the heat and everything, it was, and no access to toilets and stuff like that. That's another day's work.
Right. Well, two things. When you get a chance, and I think you should take this suggestion very seriously, if you haven't already done so, you should try and chronicle, try and write out, keep a log, because it would be a good tool for activism and for the Palestinian cause, just to go through all the different twists and turns of that journey from you first went on the flotilla until you arrived back into Dublin. So I would suggest that to you, and I would also imagine that a lot of the treatment that you received was illegal. And if you haven't already done it, or if the people organising the flotilla haven't done it, I think it'd be very useful to have some of that recorded with lawyers. I mean, one of the things that's happened here in this part of the world and in the north is that statements that people made way back in 1970, 71, when their houses were raided, when someone was killed, when someone was arrested, they're now being used in inquiries and investigations. And I'm here in the Falls, and it's the curfew of the Falls anniversary, and there's an inquiry into that, and statements made by people at the time are being produced. So I would suggest, if that's, and I know it may be difficult because everybody has dispersed and so on, but to have some sort of legal record of your experiences, if the organisers could do that. Now, would you do it again?
Look, to be honest with you, it was tough. It was my second time, and I think that I would, basically, to make it, I would do it again. It was tough.
I'm not suggesting that you should.
I would. If it was next week, I probably wouldn't, or if it was probably in a month's time, I probably wouldn't. But I think in time, that I think it was important in terms of shining a light. It was mobilised ordinary people, human rights activists. It shone a light on Gaza, and it highlighted for me, as well as it highlighted for me the difference at how ordinary public felt and how government felt, and how government acted, and how what the public wanted to happen, and it contrasted government and power with the public.
I think it was a remarkable endeavour when you think of the logistics, when you think even of all the vessels and boats and ships that were got together, when you think of all the volunteers, when you think of all the backup and the capacity building that had to go on. I think it was absolutely remarkable. It was great solidarity.
Well, it was a great honour to be part of it, and it makes you feel that you were part of something important, and so I got a lot out of it as well. And as bad as we were treated, when you think about how Palestinians are treated as prisoners, it's just absolutely horrendous, and I can't imagine how badly they're treated. So, I have privilege, and I'm very privileged, and yet, so when I see the way we were treated was bad, so I can only imagine how Palestinians are treated. It was absolutely shocking. It'd be shocking,
And that brings us, and we'll bring this to a conclusion. That brings us to what you were discussing at the beginning of this discussion about what happens next and the need for justice. And it was reminiscent when I was listening to you talking of our own peace process when we started within Sinn Féin and with others to try and understand what peace was, you know, because peace is the presence of justice. It isn't just the you know, please God, the ceasefires come in and they hold, but that still isn't peace. It has to be the presence of justice. It has to be rights-based. It has to be citizen-centered, and it has to include the right to self-determination for the Palestinian people. So I think the more we keep that front and center of our activism, and the more we encourage others to put together a process, which is essentially a process of decolonization. It's essentially, as we need in our own place, a reconquest. It's a reconquest of the Palestinian territories by the Palestinian people, and hopefully a peaceful relationship between them and the people of Israel. So if you want to give us your thoughts on any of that in the time ahead, or what you think activism should do on the issue of Palestine from here and as we enter this new phase, hopefully.
Well, you know, I think it is important. Like I said, the support within the party, within the public, was absolutely and is absolutely phenomenal. And I never, you know, it's overwhelming in many ways. And but now is the time to, you know, it's really important to keep that momentum going, that, you know, and to get people talking, like you say, not just about peace, but about justice and what justice looks like. And how, and like you say, that it's about self-determination, and it's about people who have been affected by injustices for so long, being able to see and live in a just society. And but you know, it's so I think, like, it's, and the media, I think a lot of the time they talk about peace as if like that was it, but they talk about peace, but I think we have to talk about justice, and that the focus of media and campaigning, you know, has to be around justice and what that looks like and how we get to a just society. So that'd be what I've and just to say, to thank Richard for that candle. It worked.
What worked?
Richard lit a candle for me when I was there. So
Yeah.
say thanks for that. Huh?
He's a pagan, but
he lit a candle. Well, I tell you, it worked anyway.
Right, well, fair play to you. And look, I think you and your comrades, you represented, of course, the people of Palestine, but you also represented us, and you represented me. So thank you for that, Chris. Thanks for all your endeavours, and stay well. And
thank you.
Here was Tugbook.
Gurmagut, Slán Tamil.
Okay, Cara Amor, Chiefy Mehu.